What if I told you your life can be created in a laboratory? It sounds impossible, but time and time again, scientists have proven that the power to create life doesn't only live in the hands of God. Life doesn't begin at birth, but at the formation of embryos. And now, the future of embryos seems to be taking a whole new shape. From birds chattering in their eggs, to synthetic life made without sperm or eggs, and creating artificial wombs through science experiments. What does the bizarre future of embryos hold for us? We'll find out more in this video. A shocking discovery has emerged that unhatched bird embryos from species like the seagulls can not only hear the warning signals of mother birds, but they can also communicate that information to their unhatched siblings. This is particular with the seagull. The unhatched birds would vibrate their shells to warn their siblings of external dangers. Somehow, the unhatched embryos seem to understand the interpretation of this vibration. This remarkable ability shows that these birds have already developed a survival instinct, even while they are safely tucked away in their shells. What this means is that birds can adapt to their environment long before birth, because once the egg is laid, their physiological makeup can no longer be influenced by changes in their mother's body, unlike the placenta of mammals. Now it's been discovered that even baby turtles can send off signals to other unhatched turtles in the same nest to coordinate their hatching time and increase their chances of staying alive. This feels more like an egg-to-egg chit-chat of tiny creatures with some kind of superpowers, planning on how to take over the world. What's even more impressive is that researchers also found that chicks of certain bird species not only hear and respond to the cry of their parents while still locked in their shells, but that once hatched, those same chicks develop better and quicker than chicks who never heard such adult cry. As interesting as it sounds, when eggs that have been exposed to the screeching cries of their parents are placed together with the unfortunate eggs, remarkably, the second egg begins to respond just like the first. It seems like the birds develop with some kind of walkie-talkie attached to their eggs that help them communicate like undercover detectives. But it doesn't end there. Once hatched, they immediately recognize the voice of their mother. Well, we can only imagine, but this explains how deep science has gone to bring this strange phenomena to our knowledge. Right from the womb, you can predict if a fetus has genetic diseases like Down syndrome and cystic fibrosis, all thanks to a scientific discovery known as fetal DNA testing. This technique is done by running a test of a fetus's DNA from the pregnant woman's blood after 10 weeks of pregnancy to determine if the fetus will be born with certain abnormalities, whether hereditary or spontaneous genetic disorders. So we can see this as a whole new turn in ensuring the safety of both the mother and the developing baby. And if it's done by exceptional professionals, this non-invasive technique could transform prenatal care entirely, allowing us to detect diseases in the fetus as early as possible. Think of the thousands of babies that will be saved because of this discovery. More and more unborn kids will be treated for any disorder before they catch their first glimpse of daylight. The evolution of artificial intelligence in the medical world is just insane. To help you understand better, the test measures the small fragments of the fetus's DNA present in the mother's blood. With this, the chances of a chromosome problem can be determined based on the relative amount of DNA. The presence of any chromosome problem will tell if the child will be born with a disorder. The results are usually available in 2 weeks after drawing the blood. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Women who test positive for high risk can have a decisive test using chorionic villus sampling, CVS, to be certain if the result is accurate or not. This part is often left for the woman to decide. Pause for a second. What do you think the future looks like with this new technology? How far should humans go in using this piece of unbelievable intelligence? I mean, would we have high rates of abortions because people are too scared of having abnormal babies? Think about the number of tender lives that will be aborted just because they were unfortunate. How far should humans go in using this piece of unbelievable technology? However, we can't deny the truth. Early diagnosis of a disorder increases the chances of it being cured. And who knows? The next few years could present a more advanced technology that would treat fetuses with high disorder chances right in the womb. That speaks a lot like a welcome development, doesn't it? The first step of the success of any discovery is the testing phase. The thought of having artificial wombs in existence shows that science is about to turn the world into a madhouse of endless possibilities. The first test has been successfully conducted on lambs. You know what's coming next. In what look like oversized plastic bags with tubes of blood and fluid plugged into them, 8 fetal lambs were slowly developing into maturity, just as it happens in the belly of their mothers. In 4 weeks, these tender lambs had already grown lungs, brains, and tiny strands of wool on their skin. For the first time in their lives, they opened their tiny little eyes, wriggled around, and learned to swallow. This is the first step toward an artificial womb. Thinking about the advantages of invention makes you wonder just how much science can make life easy for us. I mean, a world where you can grow babies in a plastic bag known as a biobag, removing the risk of carrying around an extra human or suffering a miscarriage. No stress, no human effort. This would be the best news every woman would love to hear. This alone will save the lives of premature babies by a huge margin. But just before you get too excited, the research is still far from successful. They have managed to grow lambs without traditional birth, and that's great. But of course, human beings are more complex species. Replicating that might take almost an eternity. Come to think of it, if this experiment should hit the peak of success, the disaster lurking in the dark is obvious. Every couple would want a baby specially designed, and the world would be nothing but one large dysfunctional society. Or maybe couples could one day just order babies as they wish? But hey, all hope is not lost. By the current research, the biobag contains the vital ingredients that sustain the growth of the lamb. A womb-like bag that protects the fetal lamb from the outside world. An electrolyte solution that constantly bathes the lamb, just like the amniotic fluid present in the uterus. And a breathing space for the lamb to stay alive. With these in place, redemption is in sight. We're officially living in the future where lambs are born in a sci-fi bubble. Next stop, build a baby workshops at your local mall. Growing lambs in plastic bags is logical. But growing synthetic embryos using stem cells is an unbelievable level of technology. What started as a simple laboratory experiment could turn out to be a groundbreaking feat that will change the trajectory of the world. Scientists are saying that these model embryos will wipe off the possibility of genetic disorders and the causes of recurrent miscarriages, bypassing the need for human sperm or eggs. If you think this is insane, so do I. Welcome to the new age where the impossible is inexistent. The first phase of this experiment was carried out, where stem cells were used to grow mouse embryos in a lab. These guys tried to imitate the natural process of embryo formation by guiding the 3 types of stem cells found in the early development of mammals, down to the point where they start forming recognizable body parts. With this, the stem cells were able to organize themselves into structures, progressing through the different developmental stages until a beating heart and particles of the brain were formed, including the yolk sac where the embryo draws its nutrients from. All these happened in barely the first few weeks. Surprisingly, it even developed to the point where other components that make up the body start forming. The scariest part is where this could lead to: synthetic human embryos. For the first time in the history of the world, your sperm and fertile eggs would be useless. If you think this is all to it, think again. Because who would love to go through the labor of bearing a growing baby for months when you can simply order one from the lab? Anyways, we'll just be out here skipping the whole birds and butterflies talk. Who needs sperm and eggs when you've got stem cells and science doing all the hard work? The evolution of science and technology has opened up a playground for scientists to play God. If we're making embryos from scratch, where do we draw the line between life and science experiments? How's that for an episode? From birds communicating in their shells, to lambs growing in plastic bags, to synthetic embryos. We should all just return to our normal little lives of living in caves than in a world of complexities. The future is almost defined even before we walk into it. We might no longer need our physical bodies, just brains flowing in glass casings. How about you? Do you think these discoveries will enhance our lives or make it more chaotic? Let us know in the comment box. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more weird science facts.